Welcome, heathens and witches, to the Horn
and Cauldron
podcast. I'm John Norgrove. This is Julie Norgrove. I was going to say your host, but I don't host this. Let's be fucking totally
I thought maybe
real.
you had forgotten who you
were. No. I totally knew what it was. I was going to say, like, I'm your host, John Norgrove. And I'm like, host of what? What is happening here? I'm watching too much TV. That's what that is. Yeah, so either way, we're back at it again. It's Horn and Cauldron podcast time. If you are, let's get the business stuff out of the way. If you are watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like this video, comment below, share, subscribe, ring the bell, and do all that kind of nonsense. If you're listening to this on your podcast network of choice, subscribe and leave us a comment. If you would like to support more of this witchy content, you can join our Patreon. We have a Horn and Cauldron podcast here. We do stuff and we talk and we answer questions, and it's fun. Come hang out with us.
Yeah.
If you are into other ways of supporting us, we have an Etsy shop, so check that out. And
we have social media channels that we do videos on too. But big thank you to our Patreon patrons. You definitely help keeping us doing this thing, and it helps us to do things better and better than the last time. So that's pretty exciting. I guess let's get on with it.
Yeah. So today we are at the break. I'll specifically thank the patrons. That is not as easily found on the cell phone as it is on the computer. It's like one click on a computer. I can name all of them. Whatever. It's not important. Anywho, today we are talking about Toxic Internet Witchcraft. So I am going to preface this with, we are nice people, and we are not attacking you. You may sound or feel attacked. If that's the case, maybe look inward. Maybe you're being toxic. I'm just putting this out there. Right? We are very, open in the way we discuss all this stuff, and this is more about addressing the things that we have seen in the most recent
year or so.
It's really been in the last year and a half, year and 3/4. I mean, really it's the shadow times, the stay-at-home times, I think have driven a lot of people into being a little tense about shit in a way that they normally would not be. So that's kind of what we're talking about. We're going to try and run through this stuff for the most part fairly quickly, because there is a fucking bunch to cover.
Ooh,
let me tell you what,
boy.
the toxic internet witchcraftery going on right now is pretty fierce. But you know what? If you obviously, if you are watching this on YouTube and you disagree with us, or we misappropriated a thing, or that's probably not the right word, misconstrued a thing, probably closer to the right word that I was going for there. I don't know. Let us know. I'm more than willing to have a conversation with anybody about pretty much anything. So, unless you're a racist, then fuck off. But pretty much other than you being racist. Let's talk about it. If you disagree, that's the point of this, is for us to discuss and learn and grow together into a witchy community that's accepting and not dicks.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the goal, right?
Yeah. And we're certainly not trying to call anybody out unless you're, someone who's practicing unsafe fire or food stuff. Which
if you're eating or feeding poison stuff to people, fuck off. If you are doing fire shit unsafely, fuck off. And if you're racist, fuck off. Those are the three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't be unfood
safe.
Listeners,
don't be fire.
There's your drinking game entry for this episode of the podcast.
Is the standard don't play with fire dangerously, you fucking idiot, you'll burn your house down.
Yeah. So really the idea behind this episode is not to call anybody out, but kind of how to clarify and how to practice ethical heathenry or witchery, depending on what term you prefer, and remove negativity and to ignore some haters.
To elucidate the things that people are doing that are toxic, so that way you don't get caught up in it. And this will come up throughout the whole thing, but you see it all the time where somebody poses a question online and they're like, hey, I was in this group chat and these people were saying this thing. am I not allowed to do this no more? Or like, you know, like talking to friends and they're like, oh, I read this thing that like this is only for these people, or this is only for this, or like the way that I've been doing this is whatever. And it's just like, man, you don't need to be asshole about stuff, you know? But so yeah, let's just bloody get into it, huh?
Yeah. So first we're going to talk about cultural appropriation and closed practices. But before we talk about this, it is a controversial subject, and I want to first talk about the 3 A's. This is my own thing that I made up. This is not some sort of standard. So that is appropriation, acculturation, and adoption. So first, appropriation. So the definition of appropriation, which is pulled from dictionary.com, is the act of appropriating or taking possession of something, often without permission or consent. Anything appropriated for a special purpose, especially money. Now, when you look at other resources for ideas about what appropriation is and what that looks like and definitions of it, you can find this quote on Wikipedia, and it goes, "Those who see this appropriation as exploitive state that cultural elements are lost or distorted when they are removed from their originating cultural contexts, and that such displays are disrespectful or even a form of desecration. Cultural elements that may have deep meaning to the original culture may be reduced to exotic fashion or toys by those from the dominant culture." Now, examples of appropriation would be the Nazis taking the swastika, which is a widely used religious symbol for fertility and luck, and had been
and
for
like peace and
tens of thousands of years
stuff,
before they came around, and then they used that as their political symbol.
Yeah. So like now, swastika, bad news. You see a person with swastika tattoo, bad news bears. But like if you, I think the big Buddha statues with the swastika are in Thailand, right? Yeah. I'm trying to think. I've seen them. I've seen like on like History Channel shows about like Buddhist culture and things like that. You know, and every show has to do the thing where they're just like, I know that this looks like a swastika, but like this is the historical like reason why this is here. Everybody relax. These guys aren't Nazis. So yeah, that's a solid example. Nazis taking shit and then misconstruing it to represent some new, less cool shit. Yeah.
And another example is Native American headdresses worn as costumes. There was a Victoria's Secret fashion show in 2012 that had a bunch of models wearing replicas of Native American headdresses, which are something that
have like cultural significance.
Very intertwined significance.
And if you're not American, I imagine this is like probably hyper confusing or seems crazy town, but the American and like Native American, the like modern American v Native American cultural appropriation, Washington Redskins, Chiefs sports teams, Victoria's Secret headdress thing is like an ever evolving topic of discussion that a bunch of people do not want us to have for reasons that I can only imagine are obviously racist. But you know, this is one of those ones where some people are going to fall on one side, some people are going to fall on the other side, and there's a bunch of bloody gray area in the middle with regard to like what and how and why and situational awareness and a bunch of other things. And you know, as long as we're having a peaceful conversation about it, it's fine. When people start like throwing around cuss words and making fun of each other and such like that, then conversation's broken down. We're not going to come to an agreement, and we're all just acting like butts at that point in time. So yeah, I guess just don't be a butt.
Yeah.
About it.
Now, not everything that takes from a culture other than your own culture is appropriation. There are a lot of different ways that kind of stuff
gets English words, a bunch of
gets
French
integrated
words,
and gets used.
A bunch of German words.
So next is acculturation. Now, the definition of acculturation, again, from dictionary.com, is the process of sharing and learning the cultural traits or social patterns of another group. And different cultures have different ways in which they prepare and serve and eat their food. When people are exposed to another culture for an extended period of time, thinking of people who live in another country, especially
Study
for
abroad.
short periods of time, studying abroad.
Yeah, all that stuff. Host programs. norms.
Or growing up in a neighborhood that is very dominant for a specific culture, those individuals tend to take on aspects of that host, in quotations, culture's food customs, and they implement them with their own.
Yeah.
In cases like this, acculturation is heavily influenced by the general knowledge in that particular population in which the individual is living in. And this is only talking about food, but you can see where this kind of goes across other areas. And it kind of like informs the way that they use unique food preparation methods, unique foods, and also how that influences the media and social interaction, especially around food. And that definitely applies to other places. And that's one way that can go when you see someone who is practicing a lifestyle that wouldn't be what you would think just by looking at the cover of that book, what that would look like.
Yeah. I mean, I guess really, first of all, don't judge a book by its cover is like obviously an important one here, but I also feel like we don't all know the situation of why a person is doing a thing. And we should not assume that the instantaneous assumption should not be negative. It shouldn't be like, oh, whatever. Like a common one that's argued is like white people and dreadlocks. Why does that white person have dreadlocks? That came up after.
The Matrix.
No. Actually, not as much as you would think. No, it was a different time. It was the 90s. That doesn't count. Actually, that wasn't the 90s because that was the Matrix 2. That would have been like 2001.
Odds,
yeah. Or maybe 2000. But no. After Aquaman, his mom. What the heck is her name? Why can I not remember that actress's flippin' name?
Michelle Pfeiffer in that?
Definitely not Michelle Pfeiffer.
Is it?
It might be Michelle Pfeiffer. I don't know.
Is it Nicole Kidman?
I think it's Nicole Kidman. I think it's Nicole Kidman, yeah. But like, whatever, in like 2 scenes or whatever, after she's been like abandoned in a cave in the past under the ocean or fucking whatever. Whatever that was, man. There's a bunch of
secret land world inside of the ocean.
Yeah, there's a bunch of confusing shit in that movie. I mean, it's a fun movie. I love that movie. Jason Momoa is awesome. But
except for Amber Heard.
Yeah, that's fair. Again, separate and distinct issue.
Yeah.
But she came out and she had like dreadlocks or whatever, and like on the internet, a bunch of people were just like, "This is cultural appropriation that they gave her dreadlocks." Blah 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 blah. And it's like, well, is it, or is it that her hair is like really long and she doesn't have shampoo because she's in a cave
and probably not a comb?
Yeah,
because she's in.
I mean, I guess she had like a turtle shell. She could have carved
the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, right. Wasn't her armor like turtle shells and shit? It was like nets and turtle shells and other weird oceanic accoutrement. So like, I guess she could have made a comb or whatever. But like, that's dumb. And also, were they trying to appropriate a culture by giving her dreads, or were they trying to visually show you that a bunch of fucking time has passed?
I think they were trying to,
and that she was alone
show
under
that she's
a cave,
got like a new look.
So you see how this is a solid example of like, if we assume the worst case scenario first, then it leads us down this path where a movie is culturally appropriating a thing because a white lady trapped in a cave for like 35 years is cultural appropriation, as opposed to stopping, not judging, and thinking first and realizing that that was just a visual example, you know, because like show, don't tell, as opposed to the 8 million other times they decided to tell, not show in that movie. So,
well, that's actually a perfect segue
you know what I mean?
for the next and the last of my 3 A's, which is adoption.
Yeah.
Perhaps she was merely adopting the practice, whether consciously or out of need in storyline, kayfabe, as if you will, that she was going to have. The ocean.
You know, because it's called kayfabe because it's in a ring.
Yeah. I'm not going to give that one to you.
Yeah.
So adoption. Maybe she was just doing that because she had to be for reasons. So the definition of adoption, again, from dictionary.com, so I can keep everything on the level and that I'm not cherry picking definitions here, is the act of accepting, embracing, or starting to use something as an idea, behavior, characteristic, or principle. And a great example of adoption, aside from Jason Momoa's mom's dreadlocks.
I think dreadlocks on white folks is the perfect way to describe this. I will get there. Continue.
Yeah, is someone who was raised and still practices a religion, like let's just say Catholicism, and incorporates other religious traditions into their belief and practice.
Yeah.
So I know several people who were raised Catholic who have other traditions that they have adopted into their practice. Some of them are more along the lines of Buddhism. Some of them are more along the lines of witchcraft. Some of them are more along the lines of hoodoo. Some of them are more along the lines of Celtic magic.
Celebrate Christmas.
Yeah, or right? non-Christian celebrating
let's
Christmas.
Be honest.
Like me.
Xmas is adoption, not acculturation or appropriation.
Yeah. Hey, you can't have that toy. It's a loud toy.
Yeah, there you go. Come on, man. You bloody waiting and stuff. So appropriation has malicious aforethought. Acculturation has to do with like setting.
What you
right?
were
It's just a function of exposure and settings, and then adoption it's the fucking definition of adoption, right? So I would the way that I would define these in the tiny cross section of white people with dreadlocks, mostly because I have no problem with white people with dreadlocks. I have my whole life never understood why people have an argument about that. Like dreadlocks are a function of like, other than like doing them nice, right? Like we're just a function of like long hair not being kept properly.
Yeah.
Right? Kind of a thing. But appropriation would be like if some dude named Kyle had dreadlocks and claimed to be like from the place and like wearing a lot of, jaw kind of stuff. And like, like he's putting on that whole affect and he's claiming to have that whole culture, but like that's got nothing to do with him. Right, he's just claiming to have it for the clout.
But
right?
he doesn't act it. What is that called
for in the military? People who lie about having been in the military, they're they just talk about this in the book that I'm reading right now too. Stolen valor.
Yeah.
Right. Stolen valor would be the like sort of the idea there that I'm trying to get at. Right. He's appropriating this culture that he has no connection to and that he has no like history with and whatever like whatever the fuck. Right.
And perhaps he's doing it for money or followers.
Well, he's doing it for
clout.
Right. He's doing
clout,
You're doing it for clout. You're appropriating. I mean, if you're being like a piece of shit, you're a piece of shit. It doesn't matter how, it's just that you are, right? Whereas acculturation would be like if you grew up there and that's the manner in which you act and talk and dress, right? Or you grew up in a community that was like highly enriched in that and steeped in that culture, and that's the way that you grew up and you eat and you cook and you talk and so that's why you do that, right? Is it cultural appropriation regardless of skin color or religious background that you speak with a southern accent? No. You're from Georgia. You sound like that. It's fine. We're from California. We sound like this. It's not an accent. I'm not putting it on. It's just how it comes out of my head, right? So like accents is a great one, right? If you speak the accent that you're from, then acculturation. If you put on a fake accent to try and get a job, appropriation, right? If you move to a foreign land and instead of calling it gas, they call it petrol. So you start calling it petrol because people are super confused when you're talking about gas. That's adoption because you're there and it makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That's you I hope that that the myriad of examples I have trying to get across on this delineates the difference between these things, primarily because there's always going to be an argument about this. That's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
So like in my mind it's a one at a time kind of situation, right? And then we'll figure it out for each individual example.
It's almost like a flow chart. Yeah. So before we keep going down that rabbit hole, we're going to talk about closed practices and closed communities. Yeah. So definition time. A closed community, because closed practice isn't really something you can find a definition for on the mainstream dictionary type things. So we'll go with community instead.
Yeah, I guess if a lawyer lost his place of business, that's a closed practice.
That's what they're trying to get at with
Yeah.
a lot of this stuff. It's funny. Oh boy, Googling closed practice gets you some interesting local information. A closed community intentionally limits links with outsiders and outside communities. Closed communities may be of a religious, ethnic, or political nature. And you can see how this translates to the idea of closed practices in modern heathenry as well.
Sure, yeah.
So we're going to talk about the Amish. The Amish are a closed community, and most people
You can't just join Amish. The Amish.
Well, wait for it. So the Amish are a closed community, and most people are at least vaguely familiar with the concept of what Amish is, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not an expert on being Amish, but
Obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, what?
To you from a pretty non-Amish standpoint. I don't have any personal history with the Amish, nor do I have any beef with them. It's just sort of, this is the way that this goes. So anyway, to be Amish, you must be baptized. And that is done typically between ages 16 and 23, which is where they consider adulthood. That's right after Rumspriga. That's how most people know of Amish. And
Amish.
you also have to follow Ordnung, which may differ slightly between communities, and it covers day-to-day living, including the primary do's and don'ts of Amish life. And I'm not going to get into those because we're not really talking about them, just the idea behind what a closed community such as the Amish would have. Now, failure to follow Ordnung can cause a person to be shunned or even excommunicated. So that is a example of a closed practice that is being Amish. It's not that you can't join the Amish. It's
They just got rules.
They got
if you can get kicked out and
rules
shit. Yeah.
in order to qualify to become Amish or to continue to be Amish.
Yeah.
Now, besides that, we are not going to make any ruling for which practices are closed or not. That is something that you, as the listener, have to research and look into yourself.
Yeah.
We are not experts. We are coming to you with the most lukewarm of hot takes here, and our goal
They could
is
be
not.
hotter, but
they could be
they're
way
not-
hotter.
They're not.
But our goal is to unify people and not to pick fights with people.
We're building a community of like-minded and open-minded individuals. If you want to do closed shit, that's fine. But don't be a dick about it.
That's you and your decision.
Yeah. And if you find, as an example, because she just brought it up in the Amish thing, if you find a practice, right, and it seems closed, or it seems like it's doing some uncouth shit that you disagree with, I would take the synonym route, which is the way that I like to think about it, is like, for example, in America, a satru is generally associated with like hate stuff, but it's not in other places. So like look up synonymous practices to find the like non-hate speech one.
Exactly.
Or whatever. So just because you found like orange witches are like none of this shit, right? It doesn't mean that like you know, whatever, red witches aren't cool or something. You know what I'm saying? So like you want to
You're using these colors, and all I can think of is the Green Lantern colors. There can only be one orange Green Lantern at a time.
Well, that's because he's the Chaos Lantern.
No.
Yeah.
No.
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 I don't fucking know. I'm a Marvel fan. Right? I'm like, green is I don't know any of the colors.
Oh, buddy.
Hope?
Oh, man.
Is green the hope one?
No.
Is black the zombie one?
Yes.
Okay, that's gangster. And white is like the weird angel-y one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's also blue.
Red is angry.
Yeah.
I don't remember an Orange Lantern, to be completely bloody frank with you. By their powers combined, do they become Captain Planet?
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
well,
they
then
don't.
I don't care, because that was a better comic book. Bam! Shots fired.
There's been some good Green Lantern runs.
I actually super love the Black Lantern run of comics, but that's, again, entirely negligible.
Yeah. That's not
Captain
not really
Planet's still
related.
better. Come at me in the comments, yo. Fight
If
you.
there is a practice or school of magic or heathenry or witchcraft that you're interested in, or something specific that may belong to one of those practices, look it up. Do some research. And like your idea about synonyms, I like to think of it as like meta analysis is
Fancy.
reach out to or research in several different types of people. So there's going to be people who are like very laissez-faire about things. There's going to be people who are very strict and conservative. And there's going to be people that are in the middle. So look into several different sources of schools of thought about whatever it is that you are interested in that may or may not be a closed practice to get an idea.
Do your research
do your
and
research.
don't take somebody's word as law and
Don't take one person's word as law, or even two. But once you start getting above
I would
two,
say
you can
take
start
no
seeing a
person's
consensus
word as law
of information.
Yeah, you could come to a conclusion that matches somebody, but don't just listen to people. That's crazy town.
Yeah. Yeah. So do your own research and make your own decisions, whether or not that is a practice that you want to be affiliated with or to take things out of, and sort of see where you, kind of want to go with that, as well as.
And if it's if this is if it's a closed practice, in whatever way it's a closed practice, and but it's like the thing that you're looking for and you totally dig it and whatever, there's nothing wrong with it, right? It's not that closed practices are or are not wrong, right? I mean, theoretically, the Catholic Church could be considered a closed practice to some extent or another. Yeah. Because there's things you got to do and rules you got to follow and stuff, right? Or any other monotheistic church or whatever bloody alien volcano Hollywood nonsense is going on with those people. And all that, right? So it's not that a closed practice is intrinsically bad. It's just that it's a slippery slope to making a closed practice not a good place for everybody, right? Yeah. And that's there's a line there. It's a very fine line, and it's quite faint, and it's hard to see, but it's there.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
So just pay attention to what that looks like, and I think that this needs to especially be said for someone who lives in the U.S., is look for perspectives that are also from people who are outside of the U.S. We're currently living in a time where people are very us versus them and reactionary and even conspiracy theory a bit, and everybody just calm down. Yeah. But look at sources that are outside of what you would normally think of as an echo chamber to help you to make those decisions. Yeah. Yeah, just because you agree with it doesn't mean that it's the thing. All right, we're back. That's right. We're back. And since we're back, shout out to our patrons. We've got Alan and Miranda. Helena, Mackenzie, and Alexa. Thank you guys. You guys are awesome. We appreciate you. Thumbs up. For helping us do what we do. Big loves. Yes. And with that, let's keep going. Let's keep going. So speaking of closed practices and communities, there are two examples that I see fairly frequently when I am online looking at witchy stuff, and the first one of which is smoke cleansing versus smudging. So smudging is a ceremony that is done by certain Native American tribes, and it is very specific to their practice as a ritual. And so smudging is sort of the negative connotation term, cultural appropriation wise, for it. Smoke cleansing is not exactly the same thing as smudging, but it's using a bundle of herbs or resins or woods to cleanse an area. It is common around the world to use cleansing or antiviral and antibacterial and antifungal herbs in this process. So some that are fairly common all the way around the world is sage. There are many different types of sage. Just be sure that the sage that you're getting is harvested responsibly. Evergreens, be careful because some of them are toxic. And lavender, thyme, oregano, curry leaves, rosemary are all things that are very commonly used in a bunch of cultures throughout the world for smoke cleansing. Yeah. Now, to do smudging is to do a very specific ritual, but to do smoke cleansing is something that you can kind of choose to do however you want to do it. Yeah. And I think that this is a solid example of two things specifically, right? One is that like are we jumping at somebody with
negative intent to start with when somebody's like, I just smudged my altar space. And, you know, people are like, bah! And it's like, all right, man, like, they didn't know that there was a difference between smoke cleansing and smudging. Right?
Yeah.
Because, like, before you know, you don't know. That's what knowing is.
But
I think there was a
also,
rap song about that in the
not
80s.
all, not all,
Yeah,
what is
it's
it?
funny,
Not all
but-
hot tubs, not all hot tubs are jacuzzis, but all jacuzzis are hot tubs?
I mean, that is correct.
Yes. It's that brand thing. A lot of people think of the word
I mean, it's like, what do
smudging.
you call that little piece of rolled up cardboard, what with cotton at the end that you put in your ear? It's called a cotton swab, but if you call it a Q-tip, that's a brand.
Yeah.
Right? So there's that. And also, and this is something that's going to come up a little bit more frequently as we get into, like, deeper stuff. And I've probably brought it up before, but honestly, I don't remember things so good. But English is a pretty crap language at learning new stuff. So I would argue that a lot of people, when they say smudging, they mean smoke cleansing, but they've never heard the term smoke cleansing because that's 2 words and smudging is 1 word.
Yeah.
And most of our language is trying to get it out as fast as humanly bloody possible.
Yeah.
Right? So
if you encounter someone or you yourself use the word smudging when you mean smoke cleansing, give that person grace and don't beat them up because they used the
and
wrong
if they don't know,
term on
this is an
accident.
opportunity
But
to
definitely
educate.
help to educate
Not
them.
like a ass, regular educate, not ass educate. Right? So, like, in my mind, smoke cleansing and smudging are, like, identical words. I know that there's, like, ritualistic smudging. That's a different thing, right? That's not any of the things that I'm thinking about. But, like, it's a smudge stick, or you gotta, whatever. I mean, honestly, 50% of the time I call it saging. Oh, well, you just gotta sage that.
Or actually,
and sometimes it's
most
not
of
even
the
with
time,
a fucking stick of
you
sage.
just say, "I'm gonna burn some of those herbs."
Yeah,
that
sometimes
is
you
the
just
thing that
herb
you
burn
say
shit,
most
bro.
of the time.
So
when specifically using this bundle that we have on,
which
our
there's not even
altar.
any sage in that. That's
No,
just
this is
lavender
and bay and redwood.
Yeah, which I think redwood is mildly toxic, but
It is not. Not to burn. Nope.
Yeah, yay, good for me. I just didn't
is
trust.
mildly toxic. U-Y-E.
I know I'm mildly toxic. Bam, what's up?
Yeah. So, moving on to the other practice, and this one I see less often.
You can't hear finger guns on a podcast.
No, you
but
cannot.
I
hear
said finger guns, so that counts.
You could have a special sound effect for finger guns.
I do. I can program 4 sound effects into the sound thing that we use to record this, and I cannot stress this enough. I don't really know how to do that. So.
I mean, but like once you do, we've definitely created
or
a
is it that
monster.
thing where I use finger gun sound effects way too often? Bang bang. Yes, I do. So, yeah. Also, if I'm getting a finger gun sound effect, it's definitely G Dragon's Bang Bang Bang.
Oh, it has to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh,
Bang Bang
I
Bang.
love that
Bloody
song.
love that song so much. Yeah.
Oh my God, those guys are so hot.
Crayon's a better G Dragon song, but whatever. It's just me.
No, I love Bang Bang Bang, and that's not just Crayon though. That's
Well, no,
the
Bang
mega
Bang Bang
boy
isn't
band.
just G Dragon. Crayon is just G Dragon.
Yeah. I'm saying that.
But I know that I'm
it's
pretty certain G Dragon's the one who says Bang 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 in the music video.
He
but
might be.
I might be wrong.
I don't know.
about that.
We're gonna have to watch.
Yeah,
that
whatever.
video
We're gonna
again.
rewatch a bunch of K-pop music videos.
I
now.
need some like sexy
welcome.
K-pop men in my life right now.
Who
Okay,
doesn't?
so honey jars. So honey is used as a spell component.
Like a honey pot?
No.
Like
that
a
is-
Winnie the Pooh thirst trap?
No, that's a different kind of honey jar. A honey receptacle.
Is that a gross honey jar? Winnie the Pooh thirst trap?
Gross? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Who's that shitty dictator who doesn't like to be compared to Winnie the Pooh?
Oh,
It's that guy. Fuck him.
The
It doesn't
guy
matter.
who runs China.
Is it him?
It is.
Yeah, I'm fucking
is he
down.
the president? I don't know.
I don't know. Whatever. That guy's a piece of shit. Fuck
It's pretty funny. John Oliver does.
you. If that's who I think that is. If not, high five? I don't fucking know.
Or
man.
we're sorry, stranger, that you'll probably never see this video.
Unless you look like Winnie the Pooh. I mean, who doesn't want to look like Winnie the Pooh? That guy eats honey all day. Have you had honey?
and he
That
has
shit
a
is-
great time adventuring with all of his friends.
Well, yeah. I mean, he has like a real depressed friend and like a kind of irresponsible friend, but
Yeah, but like he has a great time adventuring with.
he
all
has
of his
fun at
friends.
least, yeah.
He has fun.
Yeah.
So honey is used as a spell component to attract things to you or to help to sweeten a
Ants.
situation, and jars are. have been used as a receptacle for spell work for thousands of years across many cultures. We've talked about this in several episodes.
Yeah, put it in a jar.
I was perusing the internet a few weeks ago, and there was someone who was asking about honey jars, and there was a comment on this post that was saying that honey jars are used in hoodoo, and they indicated that is probably a closed practice to this person, and that they should maybe not use honey jars. But I'm not so again, we are not making the ruling that hoodoo is a closed practice.
Never heard that before.
Or not.
Or that honey jars are only associated with hoodoo.
So
Honestly,
honey
I didn't know that at all.
has been used in many cultures all over the world for similar purposes. Guys, bees are everywhere. Yeah. And
true.
so have jars.
How do you think we know who's royal and not?
This is one of those things where it makes sense to try and do some research to see what other cultures around the world use for them, as we previously mentioned.
Yeah.
So you can find examples of honey in magical spell components all the way going back to ancient Egypt.
Yeah.
So it is certainly not something that's used by only one thing.
Another example of our language not having evolved to handle the things that we're doing, because there's honey jars, the whatever specific ritual thing that they're talking about, that somebody's talking about as being potentially closed, right? And then there's honey jars, which is like a jar full of honey. Right? Like, if you don't buy an upside down bear, then you probably buy a honey jar. I don't think that there's something necessarily magical about that. It's called a Safeway, or a Vaughn's, or Albertsons.
And sometimes that honey jar is made of plastic.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's made of ceramic because you bought a honey jar like 8 months ago because you were going to do a really intense project with it, and you still haven't done that project. But like, you keep meaning to, so you still have a bunch of honey in its own separate plastic receptacle that you keep meaning to put into the honey jar, except you don't actually want to do that because
what if you bought honey from
the honey jar first?
A bee man, a bee person,
or you became a bee person.
Apiary.
I don't know.
An apist?
So
I don't know what a bee person's called.
These two are only small examples of the things that you see out there. So again, the reminder is to educate where necessary, but don't be an ass about it. Yeah. And to
also,
do your
trolls,
research.
Right?
And don't feed the trolls on the internet, guys.
If somebody's like, you can't use sage, it's closed practice, whatever, just fucking ignore that person, man. Like, they're looking to start fights about a herb that grows bloody all over, right? Like, don't engage the trolls on that one. So do your research, don't engage the trolls, and accept that maybe English is not the best language to communicate some of these points about. And so maybe we're saying the same words, but we're talking about two entirely different things. As an example, orange, the color and the fruit.
Yeah, but also keep in mind that we are currently living in a really bizarre dystopian hellscape that seems to be getting worse with every passing month in a variety of different ways. So, just like everybody kind of needs a little bit of extra
chill the fuck out.
Chill vibes right now.
Chill out.
So,
man,
that's the appropriation kind of thing. So let's talk about something similar but like a little bit different. Let's talk about misuse and misinformation online. So first thing I want to talk about is gatekeeping. So gatekeeping is something that we don't agree with, and that is really just trying to put people into a position where they need to follow rules, or you can and cannot do these things. Yeah. They're really used, whether subconsciously or consciously, kind of as like a position of power sort of thing.
Yeah. Like, it's... If your practice requires there to be, like, a bunch of hard and fast rules and, like, gatekeeping, and, like, you can't attain the 12th level of Acculturation until you do this thing or whatever. I just made that up. I just made that up on the fly. Immediately troll hunters. But like, whatever. Like, if that's your thing, like, that's totally fine, right? But again, don't be a dick about it. I mean, I feel like the TLDR of this one is just like, don't be a dick about stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
before I just tangent the shit out of this.
Yeah, this is a tough one. So we'll try and keep it concise. So the first thing that I want to talk about before we talk about other things in gatekeeping is the term baby witch and why you don't need to use that term unless you want to.
Yeah.
So a baby witch refers to someone who is or feels new to witchcraft.
Or if the baby came out with a pointy hat. I'm sorry. I couldn't. I couldn't fucking resist that.
Or if you dressed your baby up as a witch.
In my mind, it was a baby dressed like a witch, and I was just like, that's a baby witch.
If you
what are you
did
gonna
that,
do? Gatekeep that shit, bro.
Send us pictures because we want to see adorable babies dressed as witches.
Right.
Okay, so
some creepy adults dressed as babies dressed as witches. Way scarier.
No, I don't want to see pictures. If you have pictures
never
of that,
mind. Don't
we don't
share
want
that.
pictures of that.
Yeah.
Cute babies, that's fine. Anything else? No. Some people use baby witch as a derogatory term to lower a person's status in a group. If you think about this in an American terms, it would be thinking about like high school seniors versus like high school freshmen. But you can also use other terms if you prefer to be a baby witch. When I was first practicing and first absorbing this kind of knowledge back in the 90s, and I hate to date myself with this because it makes me feel old.
I know we're not trying to shock you here, but that's because you are
oof
old.
I don't want to hear that.
Time works.
I don't want to hear that.
We're all old. It's old.
I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. So
last year and a half was like 12 years long.
Back in my day, when we had to walk
fend off
both
dinosaurs
ways uphill and fend off dinosaurs, and when you gathered information by it being
reading some sort of weird
molded
fucking
into
paper
clay
tome.
tablets, that wasn't really a term that you used, but it also was a very early time in witchcraft when really Wicca was kind of like the main sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I never was in the position
Highlander.
where I would have called myself a baby witch. But that's not to say that that's a bad term. If you feel like that's a term that you identify with and that you like using, by all means, go ahead and use that.
Yeah.
But if you want to try and use some extra or fun terms, you can use neophyte, you could use novice, greenhorn.
I'm going to say toddler shaman is probably the best one because there's something very threatening about a kid with that kind of power.
Tenderfoot.
Ooh, I don't like that one at all.
These are like from if you do like beginner. These are the
no.
like
I've heard Tenderfoot. I'm just saying
Apprentice.
I'm not into that one.
You could use Abecedarian, or you could just say witch. There's no necessity for you to downplay yourself, your knowledge, or your skill level by using the term baby witch in there.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
again,
like, maybe don't start off and call
like
yourself a grand wizard or some nonsense, but like, I mean, if that's your jam, dude.
I mean,
like,
maybe don't say grand wizard. That's a little racist.
Yeah. Man, dude, so many cool terms stolen by racists.
Damn
Bastards.
racists. Yeah. So I do see out there that there's a lot of stuff that's kind of like, if you're a baby witch, you have to do this, or you need to learn this, or you need to do this before you can do that. Yeah. That's really where the gatekeeping in terms of baby witch is. The names, that's just a tangent for me. I like to see fun names for that. Yeah. But don't let someone categorize you like that, and don't let them force you to do something very specific like that. Unless, again, that's something that you want.
Yeah, you practice in this guy's practice, and if he says you got to read this book to do his thing, then like read his book, do his thing. It's college.
Yeah, just maybe don't drink the Kool-Aid.
Well,
right?
First of all, just never drink Kool-Aid that you didn't prepare yourself. I feel like at this point in time, I won't even trust Kool-Aid in my own house. That's why I prepared that shit myself. Kool-Aid.
We don't even have Kool-Aid right now. We have Tang.
Yeah.
Tang's better.
That's
so make your journey enjoyable, and not another assignment. So if you have been in conversations or have been in a position where you have felt as someone who doesn't have as much experience with witchcraft, or even someone who does, and someone has made you feel less than because your knowledge level is less, or they're saying that you have to do all of these things before you can be considered a witch, you don't need that person in your life. Yeah. You don't have to do what they're saying, and you don't have to believe what it is that their dogma is. So really, your practice is your practice, and you can kind of choose wherever you want to go with that. And if that means that you want to practice something that has more rigid rules and structure like that, that's also perfectly okay.
Yeah.
But keep in mind the borderline between something that is acceptable that you want and something that is unacceptable and toxic for you as a person.
Yeah. Just, keep an eye out for your number one. Whatever they say.
Number one. Yeah. So, labels and paths. Much like the term baby witch, let's also talk about types of witches. And we've talked about this also in other episodes, so if you want to hear more about talking about labels and paths, you can listen to episode 3, which is 10 Tips for a Magical New Year, or episode 4, which was Spellcrafting 101. Now, contrary to pop culture and social media, you don't have to choose a witchy path. There's a lot of really cool images out there on social media, especially, that are like forest witch and kitchen witch and cottage witch and lunar witch and solar witch and all the different words you can put in front of the word witch.
I follow like, all
and
of those posts.
Let me tell you,
They're
you don't have
so
to
cool.
choose just one of them. I love all of these things, and personally, I identify with basically every single type of these witches. So I typically consider myself an eclectic witch, which is someone who picks and pulls things from a variety of different places. Not as cool as
Omni Witch. I'm just putting it out there.
I definitely prefer Omni Witch.
Yeah.
But sometimes I want to I want to refer to myself as
beam of light
a kitchen witch, or it's sort of, think of it more of branches of a tree than roads that you're walking down.
Think of it like hats in your place of business. Do you talk about hats? Business hats? Your marketing hat, or your social media hat, or your customer service hat.
Saying those things.
Listen, man, I hate saying those things also, but it's really an effective way to communicate about this specifically.
It is.
Right? And
I
also,
thought you were talking about fun hats.
I mean,
maybe you can have
maybe
fun
those
hats.
are fun.
Maybe you could have like a special hat for when you're doing kitchen witchery, one for when you're doing.
I mean, you don't have to physically
witchery.
have a hat for those. You should have one for when you're outside working on plants. Don't get sunburned. Protect yourself. But I don't have to. But that's a separate, distinct issue. No, but yeah, I think that often we look for like a singular name for some shit.
Yeah,
and that name can evolve. We follow that guy on TikTok who, like, every day he has like a new title or whatever. It's the best.
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh, I can't think of his name, but he has a different gender every day.
It's a new gender every day.
Yeah, I love him.
It's fantastic. He's the best. I love all of his outfits. I want like half of his clothing. But so like you don't have to stick with a title. This isn't like you're not in elementary school. When you choose the thing, you're not stuck with it for the rest of the year.
I don't know what you're referring to in elementary
school. This is your partner.
School.
This is your thing in class. Like when you have like a class jobs, school jobs.
No, we never did those.
Okay, well,
we did not do those.
I grew up in a weird school.
you and I had very different schooling experiences.
Yeah, it's fine. Whatever. Don't worry about it.
Wild. Okay, so of course we have to talk about this, and we're going to go over this one sort of like briefly but strongly, and that's racism. So first of all, racism does not belong in heathenry. Racism does not belong in witchcraft. Racism doesn't belong in humanity.
Yeah, don't be fucking racist. Okay, so this is the thing with racism, right? Some people are fucking racist, and those people suck and don't do what they're doing because they suck. That's it. That's the lesson. You're welcome.
Yeah,
that was my fucking TED talk to solve the world's racism problem. Hey, fucking don't suck. Who cares? What kind of churlish dumb shit is like this person's skin color defines some characteristic of their personage? Like get the heck out of here with that. But you are going to see a fair amount of racism in the heathen space. People like to gatekeep and build barriers, and especially racists love to think that they're special little soldiers because their skin is a particular color, and that's just fucking stupid. But the one of the prime examples as an American is Norse paganism. I cannot think of what the acronym for those assholes are. But there's some bloody Norse pagan church here in the U.S. that fancies that only whites can be Norse, and that like white is right and a bunch of other dumb shit like that. And these people are all idiots. There is no historical connection between white supremacy and like Norse paganism or like Germanic and Proto-Germanic paganism or like Icelandic paganism or any of that other stuff. Those people are chuckle fucks, and
that
they do not need
is
to be listened to.
Cultural appropriation.
Yeah, that is
cultural appropriation.
Yeah. That's actually 2 levels of cultural appropriation, because those assholes are culturally appropriating shit that the Nazis were culturally appropriating like fucking 70 years ago. But that's fine. Picking up a history book, I guess, is difficult for these people. But as somebody who is vaguely Norse pagan, and like I have like Norse tattoos and the Mjolnir, and like I have ravens tattooed on the side of my head, it is a point of conversation that comes up surprisingly more often than you would think. And I live in a very
progressive,
very liberal area,
California,
and I have ran into definitely my fair share of like white supremacist Norse pagans.
Yes.
And just keep that in mind, right? I mean, I have had people who have been like, don't ever go to these areas because you got like Viking tattoos, and they're just gonna assume that you're a racist also, or whatever. So I'm the wrong color for that, but that's neither here nor there. So that's something that you need to take into consideration. Right, and it shouldn't preclude you from doing a thing just because, like, a person of a particular skin tone said that your particular skin tone can't do a thing. That's dumb. Like, just think about that on the very surface of it. That's dumb. And, but also be prepared, if you're going to get a big, bloody Thor's hammer tattoo on your forehead, like, you're presenting a thing that you're going to have to explain constantly. I wear a kilt literally all the time. I am answering questions about it all the time.
All the time.
Right? Just endlessly I'm answering questions about it. And I've had friends and family and stuff, who wear kilts occasionally, not as often as I do. They're just like, oh my God, it's exhausting. You have all these people are bloody bugging you about this stuff. And it's just like, yeah, like I choose to wear a kilt because it's more comfortable than fucking leg prisons. Don't wear pants to shit. But it means that the tax I have to pay on that is that like a bunch of people are going to be like, what is going on with this? And some assholes are going to be like, what are you wearing, a skirt? To which I generally answer, yes, it is a skirt. Why? Because then they don't have a fucking leg to stand on.
Yeah, yeah.
But like, yeah, that's just something that you have to think about. Racism exists. Racists exist. Yeah, they're asshats. We're trying to stop that from happening more. But there are some practices that are more and some practices that are less associated with racism. So be prepared when you're doing your research and that kind of stuff to like run into that level of hate. Yeah. Right, and that's coming from somebody who has dealt with a fair amount of not necessarily hate, but certainly like questions and conversations of varying degrees of comfort level about my Norse tattoos.
Yeah,
and accoutrement. So yeah. Now
another thing to look out for is misinformation. So as Abraham Lincoln once said, you don't believe everything you read on the internet. He probably should have included social media there too. Misinformation.
Social media is there non-internet based social media? I mean, I guess a brick with a note tied to it's non-internet based social media, but it's also a crime. So
misinformation is absolutely rampant online, especially on social media. And always remember that what someone professes to be divine or spiritual knowledge is just their opinion and their interpretation of their practice and how they see the world. That is one person.
Yeah.
That's how
the
they
same
see
person
it.
as you. I mean, it's just a person. So
yeah.
like
now,
if somebody's
many
like,
people,
no.
Yeah, a lot of these people also view themselves as better than others, and some people are just outright scammers. So things to look out for in terms of toxicity is if someone is professing that their way is the only way. It's generally a bad sign. Take what you're hearing from them or reading from them with a pretty big grain of salt. And some people will also use their either actual or professed metaphysical gifts to profit off of a negative situation.
Yeah, if they're trying to make money off of you in you gotta you gotta give me money so that way I can, whatever. Like that's bad. Some of these, there have been some recent internet seers of some degree who've been like professing information about some crimes that have been going on that are just based in absolute bananas. So like, kind of take that stuff with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
The way you want to think about it is like, think about if you were at a state fair and you saw like a trailer that had some curtains draped, like some bead curtains draped over it.
Yeah.
And was like, come in here, let this seer talk to you kind of a thing. And you're like, all right, like I want to do this. And I know that I got to pay $5 to get into this, but like, don't get taken for a ride.
Yeah.
Just because they see that you got a Rolex watch on, kind of a thing, So kind of, and especially if they tell you not to do your own research, that's red flag. Think of it like dating. That's a perfect example. Mm-hmm. Think of it like dating. If you're seeing red flags, get the fuck out of there, man. That's not where you need to be.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, just be safe. And be careful of misinformation, because there's a bunch of people out there who are going to try to misinform you.
Whether they're doing it on purpose or not, it's still a thing that happens out there.
Yeah, yeah. And, I mean, this is the thing, right? People can be and often are wrong. So it's the same thing that I say all the time on this podcast. If you disagree with us, tell me. Like, if we say something wrong, especially pronunciations, I have seen no corrections on the way I pronounce things. There's no way I'm that good. Or, I am that good. What's up? Hire me for something. Let me be a voice actor on Star Trek. How you doing? But, yeah, just, like, take it with a grain of salt. Think it through, do some research, and, don't get swindled. Because there's always scammers out there, and, with every day, we get closer to being that old person who sends money to their prince cousin in Africa,
and so do you,
or whatever. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Listener.
Everybody gets one day closer to being that level of like uninformed because new technology is like different and absurd. Solid example. I still don't really fully grasp what an NFT is, and I'm wicked smart, but like it's not that I don't understand what it is, because I do. It's just that I don't know why it is. So that's an example. Don't get taken for a ride. All right, we're back.
That's right.
Next up,
what can you do about it? So we've talked about a lot of things. So
stay off the internet, read a book. Done. Go. Next.
Yeah.
Fucking move on. Don't listen to jackasses. Done. Get done with this. Yeah. End of podcast. Go home. We're already home.
I feel like who is it that does that?
I don't want to sound like an old person, but just don't trust the internet.
That's all, folks.
Yeah, the pig, Porky the pig.
Is it Porky the pig?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been quite a while.
Elmer Fudd the pig.
Dude, and I love Looney Tunes. We were just watching something recently, and they went to the desert, and I was like, ooh, this is some Looney Tunes business.
Yeah.
Oh, it was the Troll Hunters movie.
Yet another Troll Hunters reference.
We just finished it, and it lives
rent-free. If you are
free.
sleeping on Troll Hunters on Netflix, seriously, no association here. Unless Guillermo del Toro wants to hang out, then 100% association. What's up, dude? He's the best. I fucking love Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah.
I love his shit.
Troll Hunters was
so good.
Not only
we are so off topic right now.
Good,
this has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
It's got a lot of really interesting ideas for mythology and magic in it. See, I just tied it back in. So anyway, what can you do about the negativity on the internet? So first of all, take everything you read, hear, and watch online with a grain of salt and a pinch of common, mundane, real-world sense.
I would say like maybe like 4 cubic yards of salt.
Maybe not that much salt.
Like that much salt. Yeah. They're internet people. Let's relax, guys. Like, I'm an internet person. I'm just saying, like, let's all fucking take it down a notch.
So, some things that are sort of super common in this area that I see people talk about is, first of all, practice proper food and fire safety, guys. I know we already said it at the beginning, but like we got to do it again. You got to drink at least twice.
Oh shoot, man! So many people are asking you to put shit on fire in dumb places. Don't put shit on fire in dumb places. Also, blow out your fucking candles when you go to bed.
Yeah.
Because you should be keeping an eye on fires. You should have learned that. You're an adult who has a bed to go to.
And if you have something that you are going to light on fire, make sure you have a good way to put that fire out should it get out of control. Yeah. As well as don't put stuff in your body that doesn't belong in your body. You know, look for things that are toxic.
Yeah,
and
don't drink
ingest
rocks,
them.
Bro. Yeah. I don't know why we have to say this to people, but like, don't drink rocks.
Yeah.
Don't eat selenite. Be safe with fire. Just because it's on fire and in a bowl doesn't mean that it can't rise out of that bowl like a phoenix to fuck your shit up. Because it can.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Now, also, stop overthinking things. I see a lot of people asking, am I doing this right? What does this mean? And let me tell you, story time. Let me tell you a little story. So this past weekend, John was at work and I went out into the front yard to go and do something. And as soon as I opened the front door, I was like, oh, look at this little red berry. I wonder what this means. I wonder why this is here. Did the Fae leave this for me? What's going on with this berry? Weird. I'm going to put this right here. I'm going to come back to that later. And I went out to go and do whatever I was doing in the yard. And I found a whole bunch of red berries in the yard. Apparently there's some sort of plant near us that has red berries that like some sort of animal had picked up and then discarded, probably because they're gross.
Or the wind, but yes.
Or the wind. Yeah, we live in a forest.
Yeah.
So it turns out that berry, not a sign, whole bunch of them in the yard. But at first I was like, what kind of sign is this? So don't overthink that stuff. Yeah. And look up the signs and symbolism of something to see if it makes sense for you personally. Because if you ask me if something was a sign, I can only guess. You are the one who that sign or
does it
not
feel
sign.
signy?
Yeah, you're the person who that thing was intended for, so you're going to know better than we will whether or not it was a sign, although we can absolutely help to guide you to understanding whether it was or not.
Or help you with the research, you know, like if you're just like, I got this thing, but I don't, whatever, right? There's a fine line between only reading the good thing in your cards that you want to read and like assuming that everything around you is some sort of a sign.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it takes a while to know if stuff is a sign. You just have to pay attention and start writing it down or remembering
just write it down.
Know when something's a sign.
Write it down. Is this a sign? Question mark underneath what you just wrote down. Move on. Right? Yeah. And then like whatever, you may circle back and be like, definitely a sign. You may circle back 6 months later and be like, definitely not a sign. It's winter. Of course there's no leaves on the tree. What was I talking about, Willis? Right? You just had a bad morning. You're just like, why is there no leaves on the trees? What's going on right now? What is this sign? You're like, winter, bitch. It's January. Done. Right? So, like, yeah, just, you know, again, take it with a shovel of salt.
Yeah. Now, if you're doing spirit work or deity work, spirits and deities don't get mad at you for leaving the wrong offering. There's a lot of people who are afraid they're going to offend a god or a spirit or other type of being like that. And I get it. I get that fear. But at the same time, these spirits have been around for untold amounts of time. And they don't care about petty things like you left out hot dogs and their favorite thing is pineapple.
Only recently have humans had access to fucking everything fucking all of the time, which is what we currently have access to, everything all of the time. Beforehand, sometimes you didn't have access to whole colors for like most of the year. 2 months out of the year, we got blue shit, so we got blue. But other than that, no blue. Nothing you're making is blue. That's just how that works, right? Yeah. So take that into consideration. Also, sometimes it's the intention that matters and not the precision, right? Like I'm leaving a little offering with for this deity or whatever, but like you're vegetarian, so you don't have like chicken or whatever. They're not going to be butthurt about that. You don't eat meat. Why would why would you have meat?
Yeah.
Right?
As a
like
great
that's
example,
perfectly reasonable.
We most of the time, as offerings, most of the time we just leave a little bit of whatever it is that we're having for
we just leave a little
meal.
bit of whatever we're having for dinner.
Like tonight we had chicken wings with like French fries and ranch dressing. So tonight that would be our offering. Let me tell you, Aphrodite does not mind chicken wings.
With
hot sauce.
Yeah, it
and
doesn't
ranch dressing and French fries.
I think that it's all part of that. Don't overthink, right?
Yeah.
Like you're overthinking that it's got to be this exact color red of the thing. And like, I mean, if your thing is that it needs to be like exactly these perfectly ripe strawberries that you're leaving every single time, then like build a greenhouse and figure all that shit out. Like that's awesome. Do that. That's rad, right? But like, don't worry about it if it's not like.
Don't let it get you down.
Yeah. Don't let it hold you back. Don't build barriers for yourself. Other people are going to barrier a bunch of shit in your life. Don't barrier yourself. Be free, man.
Now, if you are trying to work with a spirit or a deity and you're working with them for guidance and they've given you a direction for guidance, that is obviously not super sus. Like if they're telling you like go murder a bunch of people, don't do that.
Yeah, don't be a piece of shit. I mean, that's a separate
don't go murking people. So if they've told you to do something as part of this work that you're doing with that particular spirit and you haven't done it, they're just not going to make time for you. That doesn't mean they're mad at you. That just means they have all of those people out there in the world who are praying to them, who are worshiping them, who want to work with them, who are working with them, and they don't have time for someone who isn't going to commit to whatever that thing is.
Well, to working with them. It doesn't matter whether they give you a thing to do or not. That's a negligible aspect of a thing, right? When you put work in, you get stuff out of any situation, right? It's cause and effect. That's like the nature of physics and the arrow of time, right? But like, as an example, if you do tarot a bunch, sometimes your tarot cards are going to give you very roundaboutly the exact same bloody answer like 4 or 5 times to a thing. It's probably because that's the answer.
And sometimes for several months in a row, and you're like, I get it!
But you're not doing the thing, so they're going to keep telling you. And then sometimes you do the thing, and it's still telling you because you didn't do 100% of the thing. So, well, I guess tarot cards can be assholes sometimes. I don't know what the point of that was. But yeah, just like participate in your own like edification with regard to this stuff. Yeah. And like don't expect this isn't a 2-hour movie. You're not gonna like open up a spell book and then be like, I got it, guys. I'm super wizard now. Don't worry about it.
You're not gonna like open a spell book and be defending the world against the Sanderson sisters.
Yeah. But theoretically.
But also trust in the process of learning, whether that's about your craft, interpreting signs, or really anything else, and this even goes beyond the witchy community, but trust in that process of learning. Write things down. Seriously, this is like another one of those drinking game things where with this podcast where I say it every time, just write it down, put it in your phone, put it in a notebook, get something fancy, make a nice pen, whatever it is that you want. Use a scrap of paper in the back of a receipt, write it down because it's going to help you remember, and later on it's going to help you analyze. Like if you've ever read a book and they've about like witchcraft or seen a movie about witchcraft and there's like a cool spell book or like a book of shadows or a grimoire, that's what that is. You could be that person. Be that person. So also read and research from several different sources before making a decision. Try to get things from outside of your own personal belief or what it is that you're wanting to get out of that particular research.
Yeah, definitely do research, write it down, and like it takes time. Be patient.
Yeah, and accept that you'll always be learning. Over time, you'll gain experience and knowledge, but there will always be more to learn. I have been practicing and I have been researching witchcraft stuff from a variety of different angles for 30 years, whether I've been in or out of the broom closet, and I am still learning things all of the time. Yes, I have a lot of history and I have a lot of knowledge, but there are plenty more things out there for me to learn. And sadly, unless I become a vampire, or I become truly immortal, I don't think that I'm going to learn all the stuff that I want to learn before it's my time to leave this plane of existence. That's how much there is out there. But also, follow what interests you and see where that takes you. That's part of the directing your own learning. You're not in school. We are not your teachers. You're not going to get some sort of a certificate here. But try to find something that you enjoy and follow that thread. Make it fun for you and also interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Just like, you know what? And it doesn't necessarily have to be like the whole of your bloody existence. You know, like,
absolutely.
Sometimes take a break. Let me tell you what, read a like a witchcraft book or whatever, and then read like a regular storybook.
And also, like, there's a lot of interesting witchcraft stuff that you can learn from reading fiction. Yeah. I highly recommend The Deathgate Cycle by Margaret Hickman and Tracy Weiss. That's my favorite book series after Lord of the Rings. And there's a lot of really interesting stuff about how they practice magic, and I super love it.
Yeah, watch Star Trek, learn tolerance. I'm just putting it out there. Yeah. We can be those humans. We just choose to be assholes. So and that leads me
to the last point. It's like you're looking at these notes and feeding me my segues.
It's almost like I do this.
It's almost like we. It's almost like we.
No, I have no fucking clue what's going on. I'm just talking, and it works out that way.
I don't even know.
Yeah, I'm just that lucky.
I'm just enabling you in this.
Bam, finger guns.
Finger guns. Oh no. Yeah. So that leads me to the last point here about what you can do. Don't be a jerk. Yeah. Your opinion is your opinion is your opinion. You don't have to agree with anybody or do what they say. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that you can belittle or gatekeep others just because they're doing something in a different way than you would. And I'm going to say that one again. Don't belittle or gatekeep people for doing something differently than what you think is the way that you want to do things. Yeah. Because your way is your personal way and not their way.
Yeah, you're not somebody else. You could do it your way. If you believe that the right way is this way, that's fine. It's good for you. High five, I guess. Whatever. But that shit doesn't mean that everybody needs to do it that way. That's dumb.
Exactly.
That's exactly as dumb as racism. That's just racism with more steps. Don't be racist. Don't be an asshole.
Don't do that thing.
Come on. Yeah. All right, so let's go into spells.
Yeah, so I got 2 fun spells for y'all tonight, or today, or this afternoon, or whenever you are reading this. We are recording at night. And the first one is one that's very popular on the internet right now, and that is a cord-cutting spell with some candles. You can also call this an unbinding spell. So to do this spell, you will need 2 candles, preferably not tea lights, preferably like some sort of taper candle, or even birthday candles work. Cotton thread. It definitely don't get something that's not cotton or wool. You don't want plastic at all.
Natural fiber.
A fireproof surface, a cookie sheet works great for this. A piece of paper and a writing instrument. So fold your paper in half and then open it back up. You'll have like a fold line on either side. On one side of the fold, write your name or draw a picture of yourself. Whatever you want. On the other side of the fold, write what you wish to unbind or release from you. That can be a person. This is a very popular spell for relationships. It can be a habit. It can be a feeling. It can be pretty much whatever you want. Yeah. So that you're sort of looking at them there. And then tear the paper in half on the fold and place the papers on the fireproof surface. Take 1 candle, and then think about what you're trying to unbind or release, and then place that candle on top of the paper with the same name, right? Next, take the other candle. This is going to signify you, and visualize how you will feel with this thing gone from your life. Now, place your candle on top of the paper with your name. So next you'll be taking the thread, wrap that thread around the 2 candles. You want it to be sort of like a loop. You don't want it to be pulling them together. You want the candles to be standing separate, but you want the thread to sort of be wrapped around them. And then light the candles and visualize what you want to release or unbind or cut the cord with, leaving your life. Like literally picture yourself walking away from it, or it slowly consuming or burning down or being pulled out of you. Whatever imagery or thought works best for you about how that works. There's some people who don't really have that mind's eye thing, and think of it in a way that makes the most sense to you, leaving your life. So once those candles have burned down the thread, you may now extinguish the candles. And after that's all done and everything's cooled down, throw the candle, the paper, and any remnants of the thing you want to release in the garbage. Just throw that business away. That candle that signifies you can dispose of that one in any way you desire. You can also throw it away. You can keep it, reuse it for the wax. We do that sometimes.
Yeah.
There's no need to try and figure out what the flame means on this, because you're not using this as a matter of divination. You're using this as a spell to accomplish a purpose.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I'll see people posting pictures or videos of one of the candles flaring up. Fire just does that sometimes, and that doesn't necessarily mean...
Candles are not as easy as people think they are, man. There are so many things that... I make a lot of candles, and let me tell you what, I have made candles that are like, oh my god, it's so dope looking, but the flame is like awful. And I've made candles where, in fact... Tiny story time, even though we don't really have time for that in this podcast, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Sorry, guys. It's going to be a long one.
One time when I was a kid, so many moons ago, when I was a child in the late 90s and early 2000s, I think this was in the late 90s. I think this was pre-2000. You could buy these kits that was like some fucking bullshit potpourri and like beads of wax, and you would pour it into a jar and make like a beads of wax candle with potpourri.
That sounds like a fire hazard.
Yeah, it was the fucking stupidest thing imaginable. I don't know if we just had like a botched kit or like Dad and I didn't follow the rules. I don't really remember the details of it, but what I do remember is watching this candle burn nicely. It's going down, it's burning real nicely, and then this glass jar turn into like a fucking rocket engine as it's just like just like flaming up out of the top of the candle, and we're like, oh shit, that was 100% wrong. Also, I can tell you the number of times in which I have moved a piece of glass what with was heated up, and then it just like detonated in my hand as incredibly high. So like be fire safe. Do this in a safe place. Right? I mean, you have spaces in your kitchen that are fire safe.
Yeah.
Also, wax leaves residue, so make sure you clean up your wax before you fucking try to cook on that cookie sheet again.
Yeah.
And set off a fire alarm or something.
Yeah. And some wax, you don't really want to be ingesting the stuff that's in the wax. Now, that is not to say that you can't use flames as signs or candles.
Oh yeah, we're not talking about
divination.
that at all. We're just talking about
pyromancy
this spell.
is honestly super cool, and is something that I've been practicing for a very long time, that is reading flames to get divination results. But that is not what we're talking about here, and I would very much recommend that you ignore those type of things when you are doing this spell, so that you can focus on the idea that you are leaving something undesirable behind.
Yeah.
Because that will start you overthinking, and remember, we said stop doing that.
Yeah.
So the next one is a little charm that you can say anytime that you feel you need to ground yourself and to repel negativity. So it goes a little something like this. I feel like I need some sort of thing to say before I start reciting things. It's very strange. Like it's some sort
I don't
of
know
like,
that you need to say
like it's
something
some sort of like
beforehand.
little
Also,
ditty
she's
or-
ignoring the fact that the names she wrote down for this is a charm for ignoring haters. I feel like she glanced, she glossed over the clearly most fucking important part of this, but what the heck ever.
So this is a charm for
Just say the
ignoring
chanty
haters.
thing. Yeah.
I am air rising above these energies. I am fire burning away fear and doubt. I am water letting negativity flow past me. I am earth standing steadfast. My spirit cannot be broken.
Fuck these haters. Put that at the end there.
You can add on whatever you want.
Do whatever you want.
Yeah, so just say that anytime, or think that anytime you feel like you need to ground yourself and sort of take a minute. So if you want to do additional spells for removing negativity from your life, we have correspondences. I bet you were wondering how I was going to tie that in.
Sure. I don't know. Everything she says is just a wonder, so whatever.
So some animals that are associated with removing negativity are frogs and hawks.
Okay.
I'm
not disagreeing.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, sure, rock and roll. Dope.
It was a journey. Colors, the most common would be black and white. Black specifically for releasing and for protection, and white is sort of an all-purpose color for everything and also protection. Rocks and metals, that would be hematite, obsidian, selenite, and smoky quartz.
Yeah. Don't eat any of them. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, definitely don't eat any of those. Plants, you can use black pepper, you can use clove, ivy, nettle, or any sort of thorny plant, oak, and sage, of course, for removing negativity. Foods, you can use coffee or garlic or several citrus fruits like lemon. And other types of symbols you can use for this would be the Algiz rune. You can also use the evil eye symbol, and the most auspicious time for this magic, but not the only time you can work it, would be during the waning moon.
For removing negativity specifically.
Negativity specifically.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's Toxic Internet Witchcraft. I mean, I feel like we kind of like surface leveled this, and I think that that's probably for the best. But if you want to have a discussion about it, hit us up on social media or in the comments below.
Yep.
Speaking of which, if you are watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like this video, comment below, share, subscribe. That was a pretty smooth transition. I'm pretty happy with that one.
It would have been much smoother if you didn't stop to
no, I'm gonna stop and mention how smooth it is, because I generally never remember what the heck we're supposed to be doing for these things. Just like I don't know what we're doing getting into this stuff, because I'm not the one that does the research. I'm here for color commentary.
That's right.
I'm just a pretty face. And if you're listening to this on a podcast, you will continue to believe that I'm a pretty face. And I'm definitely not lying to you about it.
We have a joke that one of us in this relationship is the pretty one and one of us is the smart one. And I'm going to let you guys decide which one you think that is.
Yeah. I think I might, because this is a podcast where mostly you're doing the talking, that I might be the pretty one, which I'm okay with.
You're definitely the pretty one in this.
Yeah, whatever's clever, man.
We're talking about math or like space stuff. I'm definitely the pretty one.
Math or space stuff?
Math, space stuff, and cars. I'm the pretty one.
Sure, whatever.
Home improvement, I'm also the pretty one.
Yeah, sure, whatever. Yeah. Whatever, man, whatever.
Yeah, but hit us up on social media or any of these videos. You can find links to all of that stuff at nerdjive.com. And we definitely love hearing from y'all, so let us know what you guys think. And as a little bit of a sneak preview for what's happening next, our next episode is going to be a deep dive into the goddess Persephone. Pretty excited about that. And coming up in the next couple of months, we're going to be hitting our 1-year anniversary.
Yeah.
With this podcast.
Yeah. So,
which is super exciting.
So we're going to be doing some Q&A there, huh?
Yeah, we're going to do some Q&A. So if you have questions that you would like us to answer.
Live? Is that something that people suggested? Did somebody suggest that?
We did have a patron suggest that we do that live. So we might be doing a live thing, guys. It's very exciting. Yeah. Or is it? I don't know.
So it's mostly just that I have to figure out how to do it. And I'm lazy is the thing there. But yeah, whatever. We'll figure it out. Yeah. Either way, I've been John Norgrove. This has been Julie Norgrove. This has been the Horn
and Cauldron
podcast. And we will catch you guys on the flip side. Stay magical, folks.
Yeah. And don't forget, breathe in self-confidence, breathe out self-doubt.